our series of 3, built upon our first lecture on forming and the second lecture on forming and norming. This lecture will address the final 2 stages in group development, forming and closing, as part of our group skills in substance abuse counseling course. As we look at the objectives for the week, I want to remind you to review the chapters for the week prior to viewing the lecture, as it is intended to supplement your reading. By the end of the week, you should be able to distinguish the characteristics of a working group from a non-working group, differentiate interventions that occur in the working stage from those that occur in other stages, and identify and describe the important factors in the process of terminating a group.
To act like you're working at an agency. If you let a group,
The working stage is only possible once a group has successfully progressed through the forming, storming, and norming stages. And the working stage focuses on the achievement of individual and group goals, and the movement of the group into a more unified and productive system. During this stage, members and leaders feel more freedom to try out new behaviors and strategies because the group has worked through the issues of power and control and enough for members to trust each other. In this working stage, your relationships are characterized by a deep personal level of concern, and self-disclosure can occur more often and at a deeper level than before. The Johari window, which is illustrated below and can be found on page 126 of your text, can be used to discuss how self-disclosure may operate in the working stage. As members begin to use self-disclosure, they experience the risk that comes with others finding out more about them, but also the comfort that comes with sharing information in a safe environment. This makes members more likely to self-disclose, which ultimately makes that lower left-hand quadrant smaller, as there are fewer hidden aspects of the neighborhood. The blind quadrant represents information that is unknown to members, but is known to the other members of the group. This may be unconscious or nonverbal behaviors that group members observe and then share, or impressions that group members have which allow them to provide some kind of feedback in that group. Again, in a working group, this quadrant will get smaller as group members are able to provide feedback to each other. The bottom right quadrant describes the unknown, which contains material that is hidden from the self and also from others, because of a lack of opportunity to explore it. A working group helps shrink this quadrant as well, as individuals begin to search for new aspects of themselves and feel safe to uncover and explore new behaviors and a new way of relating to others. Overall, members in a working group become more aware of themselves and grow through these discoveries and insights. Group leaders can facilitate this growth through strategies like rounds, where each member gets an opportunity to provide some prompt or address the group in some way. Through role play, where members assume an identity that is quite different from their own reality and allows them to address patterns of behavior or consequences of those patterns in a new, different light. Or through homework assignments, where members work outside the group to try out new skills in real-life situations and then report back to the group on the experience. Incorporation is a term that describes the process of developing an awareness and appreciation for the accomplishments of individual group members and the group as a whole, and helps members see the value of their experience. Teamwork and team building are extremely important to the working stage of groups, and emphasizes how groups can achieve tasks that cannot be accomplished by an individual alone. Teams rely on openness, honesty, compassion, enthusiasm, integrity, and a commitment to communication. Other factors that contribute or distract from the development of teams include the leadership style, the member maturity and motivation, and the group task or purpose characteristics, as well as the stability and the size of the group, the available time, and the organizational, institutional, cultural, and societal expectations of that group. On page 133 of your text, you'll find a helpful comparison between working and non-working groups. I highlight these issues here as we discuss how to distinguish a working group from a non-working group, and consider next the strategies for assisting groups in the working stage. Working groups are characterized by high levels of trust, and when trust is not strong, members openly express this feeling, while non-working groups have members who withhold themselves and refuse to share feelings, marking the low levels of trust in the group. In working groups, the goals are clear and specific, while goals in non-working groups tend to be fuzzy, and members may have unclear personal goals or no goals at all. Members may feel excluded in non-working groups, but in working groups, the members have a sense of inclusion, and members who might feel excluded are invited to take a more active role. Working groups are also marked by their open communication, accurately expressing the here and now experience, while non-working groups tend to have a there and then focus, with members who are likely to storytell and resist dealing with reactions to one another. Leadership in working groups can be shared among members, with people initiating activities and suggesting certain areas to explore, while a non-working group tends to depend on the leader for all direction, and power conflicts may exist among members and between members and the leader. Working groups take more risk and experience more cohesion, with members identifying with each other due to high levels of closeness and support. Working groups are also able to acknowledge and deal with conflicts, while non-working groups tend to ignore, deny, or avoid any conflict that comes up in the group. Working groups are able to provide and accept feedback within the group, while non-working groups may give feedback without care or compassion, and feedback is often rejected defensively. In a non-working group, conflict is done in an attacking way to express hostility, while working groups use confrontation to challenge behavior with care, and where the confronter shares their reactions to the person being confronted rather than group members ganging up on one another. Working groups are able to share power and encourage diversity, while non-working groups tend to struggle for that power and use power to control others, valuing conformity rather than individual or cultural differences. Finally, working groups have norms that were developed cooperatively by the members and the leader, and which are clear and help members attain their goals. Non-working groups may have norms that were imposed by the leader and may not be clear. Clearly, both the leader and the members play important roles during the working stage, and when groups are not doing well in the working stage, there are many approaches to address the concern. Some of the strategies that your authors suggest are probably familiar, like where group leaders model complex behaviors to allow members to copy or imitate the behavior as a way of learning it. Leaders may model self-disclosure or care and confrontation as a way to help their members understand what the behavior looks like in action.
Oh boy. They pulled me into 5 other
Exercises can
questions.
help direct and bring group members into the action by designing and implementing activities that promote interpersonal and intrapersonal learning for group members. These two strategies, along with group processing and teaching skills, are where I would encourage you to focus your attention. Group processing capitalizes on the here and now experience of group members and allows the group to reflect on the meaning of their experiences to better understand their own thoughts, feelings, and actions, and then take time to generalize what's happened in the group to their life outside of the group. Group processing is considered a naturally occurring dynamic, but skilled leaders can facilitate this to promote growth in individuals in the group.
This is what you'll be
The
doing in
teaching of
groups.
skills can also improve performance in the working stage by helping members feel more confident about their abilities and by improving those abilities. When the working stage draws to a close, goals have been worked on and achieved, and there has been significant learning and sharing of ideas and information. Members have likely experienced an emotional release or catharsis, and may have gained enough insight and awareness that they're able to cognitively restructure their lives, which is to say that they can actually think of and perceive themselves differently than at the beginning of the group. Feedback is an additional outcome of the working stage, with members exchanging specific and positive feedback, which is generally a higher quality of feedback than in the earlier stages of the group. Humor, which we talk about here as being the ability to laugh at oneself in a non-defensive manner, is another outcome of the working stage.
Well, it's already started.
To move out of the working stage, we begin to think about the process of closing the group. This, however, should not be the first time that termination comes up in the life of the group. By setting expectations for members on how many sessions a group will meet, and reminding members as the number of sessions begins to become smaller, leaders can help prepare members for the process of termination. Successful group termination promotes change in individuals and sets the expectation for group members that a new experience is about to begin, one beyond the group experience. Boundaries, both physical and psychological, help members prepare for endings. Helping members think about how termination will proceed can help prevent issues that may stem from unexpected surprises. We keep in mind here that there are two different types of closings: the closing of each session and then the termination of the group as a whole. Similar to my earlier comments, in the closing of a session, group leaders are encouraged to remind members of the time a few minutes before the end of the session, rather than surprise members by abruptly ending the session. At the end of a session, the group may summarize the material from that session, reviewing goals, or thinking about what members might do after the session ends, perhaps including homework. Again, the same tasks are appropriate when the group terminates, with group members reviewing the material and goals that were covered in the group and looking toward the future. Keep in mind that in closed groups, everyone begins and ends the group at the same time, which allows for a great deal of predictability, as the time limit may be known and communicated from the very start of the group. In open groups, however, endings are highly individualized, and the close of each and every session could serve as the closing session for some. When it does come time to close a group, termination can be done in a variety of formats, but may include member summarization, leader summarization, rounds where members respond to prompts or have a designated time to share their own thoughts and reactions. Pairing members off into dyads can also provide time for feedback and reflection, and written reactions can be a really nice way for members to consider their own experience and reactions, and may even offer them a tangible piece for them to walk away with. Rating sheets can be helpful for individual reflection, where members rate themselves, others, or the group leader on a number of dimensions like involvement, risk-taking, goals, emotional involvement, feedback, and productivity. Homework may not be as appropriate in a final session as it is during the closing of a typical session, but some members do enjoy having a specific focus as they leave the group experience. The final closing also includes a capping of skills, which is a chance for members to gain a full perspective on the tools that they have gained as a result of the group experience. The activities that we just discussed, like summarization, rounds, and dyads, can all serve to help the capping of skills. Additionally, members can assess their levels of change, rehearse behavior for upcoming settings, and finally, take time to say goodbye as part of the final closing. There are many, many activities and exercises that can facilitate the final goodbye, but generally all of them promote genuine, thoughtful, and a hopeful closing for members as they look toward the future. So hopefully at this point in the term, you've taken time to view the first two videos from Leading in the Here and Now. This is our third and final clip, and it runs about 50 minutes, bringing the group experience to a close. Please take time to view this video sometime. These videos may be your best opportunity to observe a group move through the stages we've discussed over the course of the last few weeks. I encourage you to revisit the previous videos if you've not had time to watch them yet, attending to the various issues surrounding group dynamics, leadership. To review, we now know that working groups and non-working groups differ in a number of important ways, including specifically trust, communication, cohesion, and power. Leaders can assist working groups through strategies including modeling, group exercises and processing, and through teaching skills. The closing stage requires planning and forewarning, and promotes reflection on growth and the new skills that members learn and develop as part of their experience in the group. This concludes our lecture on the working and closing stages in group development. Thanks for listening.
All right, so when leading a group, you also have to get it running and also be in charge and finish it out. So, have you ever done like a summer camp or anything?
I did. I was a camp counselor for
Okay.
for a youth group. I think 5, 6, 7, 8,
Mm-hmm.
9, 10.
Mm-hmm. So how was that? Was that like a group of 5 or 10 kids that you had to be in charge of?
No, it was like a group of 18.
Okay, so it was a big group. All day.
The kids was bad, yes.
The kids are usually bad. Yep.
But we have to do little activities.
And if you have stuff planned, that does stop them. But you're right. It's
Yeah, I
definitely.
think on Thursday or Friday, we took this one, so behind the little the rec center,
Mhm.
it was connected, like it was just like a rec center, and then right here it was like a pool.
Mhm.
So on Fridays or Thursdays, we'll take them to the pool.
Okay. So very similar to what I mean. If you're leading a group for kids, that's what it could look like. Now, if you're leading a group for adults, it's not a ton different all the time. I know that sounds crazy, but we were going through what your agencies would look like if you do assessments for people. Where will your internship be? Are you graduating next year?
2020.
So May of 23, you think?
Yeah.
So you got to do your internship either. Yeah.
Because I'm taking gym practice 2 or 3 this semester.
Okay. Do you know where you want to have your internship?
Miss Jackson, she was, she said she has a list, but
She
in
does.
one of her classes, we wanted like an application
Mhm.
and say like where we want to places, well, do a little test or something like that. And then she
Yeah.
will very look at it and she will give us
Mhm.
some places that will be filled based on it.
Did you also know we just got a new contract with Child Protective Services, and if you work there, they have a $5,000 stipend?
I don't know, if I was gonna ask her, like, what, partnerships you guys have? Cause if there's nothing that I want, I'll probably do juvenile. or
Oh, yeah.
Juvenile.
Yeah.
or Probably the same.
So like similar. So at these agencies, a lot of times you do. I actually don't like that they have it called this at first. Have you ever heard that?
No.
So a DAF, it stands for Diagnostic Assessment of Functioning. But I wish they just called it the assessment, because we would do assessments when I worked at Lighthouse Youth Services. From the assessment, you figure out what are the clinically appropriate services. ISP stands for Individualized Service Plans. So like a treatment plan, you write your notes. This also goes for groups, and this is the reason I started this PowerPoint on Friday. Sometimes you do annual reports, fair notes, discharge summaries. And this is my explanation of why people say, why do we write so many papers in social work? This is why. That's like every day when you work at a licensed agency with your social work license, you'll do this, but you get paid well. You know what I mean? So if you can write and advocate for yourself, that's the key, because that is really what we do with starting with the assessment, and then you figure out what like their needs are, strengths, preferences. Like those kids, what do you think they were like, the bad kids? Do you think they just needed a safe place during the summer to go because school was out, so their parents sent them to you guys?
I feel like,
And it's okay if that's what the case is. I just sometimes
I feel
wonder, like,
it's based on the fact that school is let out, parents don't want to do with kids.
yeah,
Then I also feel like some parents work doing something, so this is good place
Yeah.
for the kids.
yep,
But most of the time, I feel like it's based on parenting at home. So if you don't discipline your child, and when I say discipline, I don't mean whoop them, I don't mean
Right.
really beating, but if it's no type of discipline, then they feel like what they do is correct, and that they don't have to listen to you because
Mm-hmm.
my mama don't say nothing, I'm gonna say nothing, so. Cause this is one little girl, and she was so damn to talk, she was
Really?
so nasty. So like she would basically be a bully. I used to tell her like me and her used to really argue, and I'm like, you know what, you can go to the front and you can go home, and everybody used to be like, I don't know why I'm going to close her like that, but she was like, it's just best not to, because her mom is the same. She gets her attitude from her mom, and she don't do no wrong with her mom. Like, and if she call her mom, I'm going to explain to her what your child is doing. If there's a problem with it, I'm pretty sure they're going to get that her out, and you're going to be mad when you can't go. But yeah, I just feel like the camp counselors, like them stating that, I just feel like you letting her feel like that's okay. When she go to school, it's not gonna be okay.
Right, yeah.
So it's the same thing here. So I just feel like,
Okay. So yeah, and I led groups with kids, so we still had to have, and I'm reviewing some of this from Friday. Madison and I were going over it, but you do the assessment, what their unmet needs are. We always include strengths, preferences of the program, and then goals. With their goals, you write in the individualized service plan. I still do this at my private practice. So today I have to meet with a client and we're going to reassess their goals. Like, what do you want to get out of counseling? What do you want to get out of seeing a social worker? And usually it's cheap or free for them the first 5 visits. And then you write about what you talked about. So writing up the assessment, tell them what you're going to do. So it's usually like you said with the kid, maybe it's that there wasn't good direction from mom. There was no discipline, learning how to live and work in a disciplined life. And then get that in the assessment, write up what her service plan is or treatment plan, I call it. I like calling it a treatment plan. Like, what are you going to do during the treatment? And then we write notes based off of that. So they always say like the base of everything is what you find out on assessment. Have you guys done the assessments in any classes yet? Like, this is why I'm trying to introduce you guys to it, because as a social worker, do you know what one is? Because like as a social worker, we all have to, if we don't write it up, usually somebody else writes it up and hands it to us. Like, here's what I found out about this kid or adult, and this is what I'd like you to work on them with. And it will tell you at the end how to work with them. So DAF, again, it means Diagnostic Assessment Form. I like just calling it the assessment. It provides you with information about the overall assessment and functioning of the client. Like if they had a history of trauma, if they had things of that nature. It should include information received from Ohio Consumer Outcomes. In Ohio, we call it Ohio Scales. They might call it something else in Las Vegas or LA. Whether we are completing the DAF or another agency has done so, some will include multi-axial diagnosis and tells you what to do with them essentially. So that's a lot of words, but it's just telling you what are you going to do with the kids. And here's like a list. So it says we identify their symptoms, their consumer personal goals, maybe like they don't sleep well, stressors, maybe their parents recently got divorced, strengths, maybe they're very smart, and then their skills. So you're like writing everything out about this person. Like, what do you do? Then we give them a diagnosis because that's how the insurance pays for it, really. That's why.
basically, we do like, the symptoms would be like not eating, et cetera.
Acting out in school even or being bad.
So basically, you just list like the behaviors and everything, and then for the super personal goal, will be like they want to do a person diet or something if they're not eating good, basically.
Yeah, that can be one. With adults, you get that a lot. Like, I want to live healthier, eat more vegetables, drink more water, something like that. Drink less coffee.
Basically, the diagnosis would be like, since she's not eating, since she doesn't like that, maybe it'll be probably the depression.
It could
Or
be.
like anxiety.
If the parents were recently divorced, it could be called adjustment disorder because she's adjusting to that divorce.
So I have a question. So, will we, as social workers, will we get a list of diagnoses, or will we know, or will we learn about each diagnosis?
You will learn about them, especially in graduate school. They will at your agency, if you just go right into practicing social work, you'll have the book at school also. Let me see if I can look. I also feel
I
like,
remember taking a class and we were talking about diagnosis.
oh, are you really?
I don't know. It was a class previously. I took, I think, for freshman. I don't remember. But I think
Right.
it was with you, we talked about something like that. I don't know. I don't know if it was with you. I don't know. I know we
Right.
talked about stuff like that, but I don't quite remember because it was a while back.
Right. I usually go over because I want you guys to have the exact knowledge of like what it will look like. Okay, here's what I need to do. All right, is this working? I'm trying to duplicate the displays because I hate when it's in presenter mode. Oh, you can see what I see now. Good. Perfect. Because a lot of times it's not. So here's an example of an assessment. We called it the Homer Training Day. If I was showing Madison this on Friday, I wish this would go away too. Maybe I'll just act like I connected. Okay. And it's 10 pages long, so that's why. Luckily, you get a prompt for everything. On this one, it gives like the narrative at first.
So it would be presented from including close source, reason for child perception of
Yeah, so this is everything I tell you, like Homer 16, biracial.
He was discharged after 2 weeks. He didn't report that home was previously placed with his maternal aunt. So he being in October 2014 due to his father's side. Placed her in medical conditions, mother diagnosed with 14 approximately 1 month after the incident. Approximately 2 weeks after his mother passed away, indicated to his aunt that he needed to take a break because of the brain. According to the JFS record, he went to the airport and texted his aunt.
So this is what you would write up.
Where he was related to the accused after. Lord says that while he was in the hospital, he was to share beneficial. He reports that eventually he did the open up the JFS while Homer was in the hospital, suspect to his cousin's possibility disclosed that Homer had tried to have sex with the JFS report that the sister in his juvenile. According to JFS, Homer has not been told about the allegations, but he was not able to.
Oops. So this is everything.
To be too much possible year, but he denied that was not as it was if he had no motivation, and that he will oftentimes like himself due to so he don't feel sad. The reports also that when he felt the way he was described, he would go to school, was led to church on this week. He said that he was able to cope with his depressive symptoms, but because of the he did not use society issue or did not use himself, or as he feels about the other people. So I have a question. I have a few questions. Okay.
Yeah. Usually you
So-
meet with them an hour for even a few weeks before you write that much up.
Not even that. Okay, so he texted his aunt that he had suicidal attempts. He wanted to do that. He also states that he cut himself. But towards the end of the report, he said it states he denied having
Suicidal thoughts.
Yeah, so
He could just be a cutter. You know how some of them just like cut because it makes them feel better.
Yeah, but my thing is, if you texted your aunt, you said you cut yourself, wouldn't that be suicidal ideation?
It could just be that they are cutters, because if he didn't say that I want to kill myself, it could just be that he does
Because
self-harm.
at the top, wait, let me go back.
I see what you're saying, where you could interpret it that it's suicide.
So since he texts his auntie, like, I don't feel like, wait, where is it?
It does say suicidal ideation right here. And they are moving, living, breathing
Yeah,
clients, so it could change.
Oh, he said to his aunt that he needs to take a break because he didn't feel, hold on. Went to the front porch and then texted his aunt that he wanted to hurt himself or someone else if I died.
And that's homicidal if he wants to hurt somebody else.
But he
And he
said
felt
himself.
like dying, right.
So when they say, I feel like, that's technically not a suicidal attempt. But
It
if
actually-
they say, I'm gonna kill myself and I feel like living because excellency, that would be suicidal.
You're right. They on the top say he was admitted 3 weeks ago to depressive symptoms and suicidal ideation.
And then in the middle of the states, he texts his auntie and he wants to kill himself or hurt somebody.
Right, because sometimes you don't know until you actually get them there. You know what I mean?
I'm confused because I had a situation too. So if they text and said, I have thoughts of killing myself, technically, we can't report it or do anything about it because they're saying it.
So when you're under the payment plan of your agency, if you're working for somebody and they text that to you on the official phone, you do pass that on to your supervisor. You definitely do. If it's like between you and a friend, you can do what you want. Now they have something on Facebook to report somebody who is suicidal. I've done that before. You could tell a teacher, tell a friend, but you want them to be safe. So your agency will train you on exactly what you have to do. You're just saying as a friend, you've had somebody said that to you before. Is that what I'm hearing you say?
Yes.
Right. So as a friend, you can handle it however you want. I do like Facebook allows you to report it now, so you at least feel like you did something.
Oh,
What's that?
I was on Facebook.
Right. Yeah, so it is, but that's hard. Like if you texted that, that's just the first page of 10. So here then you start listing.
Not right here.
Right, they use common names up here on purpose. So like the mom, Mariah is the grandma.
They can't, let's say,
I forget who that is actually.
so, PGM means the paternal grandmother boyfriend.
Yeah, paternal grandmother's boyfriend.
Okay.
So you put who's like in the house with them. If it's a divorce, you've got both houses. Madison and I went over this the other day, but I wanted to review it because this is like the document that starts all the work you do with a client.
Is there a way we could, do a little exercise, like a blank one and we fill it out and come back?
I can send it to you. Yeah. Yep. Let's see here. Actually, if you want a blank one, this is called the Ohio Scales. Let's see here. So if you were to search them up.
And then also as well, excuse me, y'all.
Ohio's so quick. SOQ. So Ohio did this assessment. There it is. Oh, it's printable too. So if you wanted like the blank form, now I hate when they do that. They're trying to sell it to us.
Mm-hmm.
I like when it's like just right there on. Yeah, there it is. So presenting problems, date of admission, living situation. So that's the form. Then it even gets into religion and spirituality, GED. So, and that's the idea of your internships is you guys will get these, depending on how much they think you guys attained and then learn how to practice doing this.
And then my next question, so you know how it's stated, Mariah Carey and Kim,
Uh-huh.
he's going in their household. So before the child or teenager gets placed into their home, don't, the social worker come through, check the house and make sure everything's okay?
If it's like Child Protective Services, yes. Yep.
But in our defense, we just place them in the house.
We would probably work for an agency like Lighthouse, which is a foster care provider. And then they do all the foster care checks. You'll have a foster care supervisor. So they're not just going to throw you out there and you have to figure it out on your own. You're going to have a supervisor. You're going to have a social worker, master's level, social worker, bachelor's level, intern social worker, and they're going to walk you through every piece of what you have to do. So the key is, again, just like showing up. They might teach you how to lead a group at foster care. I have a few groups I had to lead to train foster parents. And again, this will be your base document because it has snippets of everything. Like he's close with his family. The family seems to have come together to rally around him. Sister reported sexual abuse by Homer after she was placed at Cincinnati Children's Hospital Medical Center. It's unclear if he knows of the allegation. That's Job and Family Services. So that's the same as Child Protective Services worker. Mentioned he has not been questioned by authorities. Parents had a domestic violence relationship. So you're putting every single thing in here that even if there's family member alcohol use, family member substance use, mental health problems, family member health problems like diabetes, even disability, legal issues. So it is a checkbox, which is nice. Also, financial issues or legal issues. So his dad is in jail for attempted murder. Although the charges may be charged now, since Homer's mother has recently died, it is reported that father has been known to talk to himself and make him delusional. So that's probably the family stuff. Then we do cover their strengths, because this is key. This is what we're going to use to work with the client. So it says, Homer is a bright young man. He has hope for his future, seems to care about the well-being of others, especially his family members. He reports he is positive. Some feel he should be a motivational speaker. He feels he is a good person. He wants to help others, and after he helps himself, seems to be the caretaker of his family, even though no one has officially requested he do this. He's insightful and shares. So you want strengths, peer groups that might be supportive. And towards the end, even religion, spirituality, cultural and ethnic issues. Homer is a biracial male. His mother was Caucasian. His father is African American. He's close with both sides of his family. He stated he used to have issues with school, with people teasing him due to his race. It feels this has subsided as he's gotten older. He's heterosexual. Then you go through infancy, preschool, childhood, adolescent. So like that's human behavior in the social environment. Sexual history that mentions, like his 12-year-old sister. School functioning, like if he had any deafness, blindness. So this form's all pre-written. You just make sure to check something in every single box. And then towards the end, you give a diagnosis. So if he's worked anywhere, if there's domestic violence, then he's been diagnosed depressed before. So he takes Wellbutrin. What medications are they on for their stuff? Primary care physician. And then Adderall, but he no longer takes it because it made him anxious. It is psychotropic. And then substance use, he used to smoke cigarettes daily, 2 packs a week. So you cover everything in here, and then problems checklist like depressed, sad, low energy, poor concentration, sadness. So this helps guide your diagnosis. And then we open up the DSM-5, which I mentioned I could send you guys a copy of that free. I have a digital copy of the diagnostic manual. Sleep problems, psychosocial stressors that he had moved recently. And then, yeah, these are the services we may check to provide. He needs symptom and disability management skills, restoration development. So like case management is appropriate. So you give him case management. You also might do therapy, mental status summary. And this is what we get paid for. So, you know, when we're like, why do we have so many papers in social work? Because this is what we're aiming towards. We learn how to write this for our job, or we learn how to read this and work off of it. So they almost rewrite the narrative again. So this is at the bottom. That's the same stuff you read at the top with maybe a few things added. And then the diagnosis will probably be right underneath this. So here's the two diagnoses here. DSM-4, this is like a 2014. You got 3 diagnoses: persistent depressive disorder with early onset, 300, child affected by parental relationship distress, and then uncomplicated bereavement because somebody had died and stuff. And then what do you recommend for treatment? So that's kind of the whole top to bottom, what that looks like. And then, so yeah, this is the DAF, and then we identify symptoms, determine the diagnosis, recommend services from it, assist in the development of goals. So with that diagnosis, we ask the client, what goals do you want to work on? Maybe he wants to finish school or become self-supporting or graduate and go into college. And then, again, here's like everything that we cover in the assessment. So, you know, strengths, needs, diagnosis, recommendations. And they all kind of center, you know, they overlap in little teeny areas, kind of what that's showing. Is that eventually it's all working on the person we're working with, and then the services we'll give them. So, maybe it's therapy 1 hour a week, no more than 52 hours per year, because there's 52 weeks a year, and then case management, 90 minutes per day, no more than 2 hours a week, or 105 a year. And that's just like Ohio's state guidelines. Like you can't see somebody more than, it looks like 3 hours per week. 1 hour for therapy, 2 hours for case management. And kind of like what that looks like if they audit you and cap you and whatever. But to some of this, you'll be trained on this again by your agency, but this is what you're going for. Like all the clients that we see, what do I do with them? Well, somebody will teach you how to write the assessment and then goals with them. And teach you how to do that work. Did you have like an agency you would like to work with? So you would work with any of them?
Not even.
I would go with the one that gives a $5,000 stipend, but maybe that's me because I'm like Child Protective Services. For an internship, because usually they're not paid. But obviously you can work wherever you want. You can go, most of them are unpaid for 400 hours. So that's what I had to do. I got like mileage.
So far, what is that? Our capstone.
Mm-hmm.
So that is 12 credits.
Oh, yeah, that's because you're at the agency for 400 hours over 15 weeks.
So that means, for 15.
Which is what, like 20 times 20 would be 400. 15 times 20 would be 300. So you're there like 22 hours a week. Then you have Nikita's class. So that's 15 hours, and then you can take whatever. Do you have any other class you have to take to graduate?
Managerial accountant. That's the minor.
Oh, that's right. You always mention that. Yeah. I never can keep up with those.
But she was thinking that if I do my capstone next semester, my math class won't have to only be on Fridays because I don't have time or have to be on.
Okay.
If not, then I'm trying to take that now in the summer. Is like have multiple people watching me stay on campus and just be a summer RN. Cause I'm going to learn and fight the experience.
It's definitely, there's so many people in need now, and like, it becomes challenging. It is cool that we get, training, and then they teach us how to run these groups and teach us how to see our clients. And I know it's the first week of fall.
After this, I got a 250.
Oh, you do? Oh, okay. I was going to say, well, luckily, because I started early, we're at 46 minutes and 37 seconds. So does anyone online have a question? I guess we've got Sierra and Madison. Oh, wants me to close up there too.
Hey, Sierra.
Hi, Sierra. So that's it for today. Yeah, it's the first week of fall. So